Welcome to the fundamentals. In today's topic, we'll be talking about total cost. We will be focusing on the elements that make up the total cost and how they apply into the schedule. To start with, we need to know that total cost itself is equal to the labor cost plus non-labor cost plus material cost plus expenses. Also, any of these costs, regardless, we can also say that the budgeted cost of any of these costs is equal to the actual cost plus the remaining cost. Now is demonstration time. We're going to continue with the same project that we'll be working on since the beginning of this series. As we said earlier, total cost is equal to labor cost plus non-labor cost plus material cost and then plus expenses. In the course of this training, we have dealt with labor costs when we are adding resources to our project. Now we're going to talk about non-labor cost, material cost, and then expenses. For my detail, I will click on the summary tab. On the summary tab, it's going to bring me to certain information, and what I need in this case is, although right now it's set to display units, I can also use it to display costs or to display dates. But for the purpose of this part of this training, we're going to use it to display costs, because there we're going to see all the costs as to what we want to talk about. Now, if you look at this side, you're going to see right here we have the labor costs, the non-labor costs, the material costs, and the expenses costs. And finally, we also have the total costs. So, what this simply means again is that our earlier formula that says total cost is equal to the addition of all of these costs is what you see playing out here. So far, we have already entered labor costs through the resources. Now, we're going to go to how to apply the non-labor costs, material costs, and expense costs one after the other. This is the same schedule that we'll be working on since the beginning of this series, which is our mega apartment project. So what I've done is I've brought in some other columns that I will be needing to demonstrate or to explain total costs. We have the budgeted labor costs, the budgeted non-labor costs, the budgeted material costs, budgeted expense costs, and I also have the total or the budgeted total costs. So, according to our definition or formula, all of these costs, adding them together will give you your total costs. So far, we have been able to add the budgeted labor costs as regards those activities where we added resources. So in this demonstration, like I said, we're now going to add non-labor costs to the activities. So I will count down to the foundation phase of this project, which is foundation WBS, and here is where we're going to add all the budgeted non-labor costs. For me to do that, all I simply need to do is to enter in the dollar amount for each of these activities under the foundation phase as shown on our notes. So in activity A1100, which is start preparation, I'm going to add $88,760. So I come to non-labor and I will add $88,760. As I press enter, it's going to give me an error message or a message that says cannot set cost budget or cannot set cost because there is no price. Okay, I'll click on OK. The reason is that I have not set up a price for the budgeted non-labor cost. For my project page, I'll make sure that the mega apartment project schedule is selected, and then on my detail, I will go to the calculation tab. So this is where I'm going to input in the amount price or the dollar default price. As you can see right now, it's saying $0 per hour. So I will come in here and put $1. Simply type in 1 and press enter. So by that, I've now set the unit price to be $1. Now we go back to my activity page and I will input in the non-labor cost as we are trying to do earlier. Again, the amount there is $88,760. So I will enter in $88,760. And with that, it's going to take it. Now, if you notice, the budgeted labor cost and the budgeted non-labor cost adding up together has now increased your budgeted total cost. Similarly, you will notice that at the detail part, the non-labor cost that is entered from the table has been populated. And of course, the total cost here at the detail part is also the same thing as the budgeted total cost. So that is how you're going to enter all the other non-labor costs one after the other. Just for one more example, I will do the next one, which is for the excavation. And this time around, I'm going to enter the dollar amount of $63,400. So I will come to the excavation under the budgeted non-labor. I'm going to enter $63,400 and press enter. So I press enter, then you can run your schedule so that it will now implement the change. As I click out and click back on the excavation, you will see that under the non-labor costs, the amount that I entered in the budgeted non-labor costs on the table side is here on the detail part of the schedule. So that is how you're going to enter in all your non-labor costs. Now let's talk about how to enter the next cost, which is material cost. If you recall, material cost is also part of your resource, because when we are discussing resources, we say resources include the labor, non-labor, and material. So the first thing we're going to need to do is whatever material cost that we want to add to the schedule, we must first include it in our resource page. With that being said, I'm going to go to my resource page by clicking on the resource from the toolbars on the left. Right now, my resource page is set to say current project resources. So I'm going to change that to show all resources. Now, this is the resources that we built earlier for this project. So I'm scroll down to the last one, and I will now add a material resource to this resources page. I click on add, and as usual, it's going to indent it. So I will indent it by 1. And just for consistency case, we're going to give it also an ID just in continuation of what we had before. So here I'm going to type MA 10-2021, and the resource name, I will call it materials. Now, from my detail part, under the details tab, because it is material, now I'm going to select the option that says material. So when I click on material, it's going to give me a notice that I'm about to change the resource type to material. I will say yes to that. Now, if you notice, the symbol of the materials from the tables has changed as opposed to the other one that are labeled. Now, it also gives you the opportunity to select your preferred unit of measure. So you click on this little box, and it's going to give you other options whereby you can select the unit of measure. So in this case, or by default, it's going to set it to each. So let's leave it at that. But if you need to change it to any other preferred unit, you can do so. So I will just close this up, and now I have this. Now I will now go to the next tab, which is units per prices. Here, all I want to do now is to set the standard rates. So for this demonstration, let's assume that the standard rate for this material is $5,000. So I will type 5,000 there. And that concludes the process of adding the material to the resources. Now I'll go to the activity page to apply material cost to this schedule. Again, I'm going to use the A1100, which is the site preparation, to demonstrate this. So remember that the material cost is part of resource. So I'm going to include this as a resource. So I'm going to go to the resource tab from the detail, and I'm going to add resource. In this case, I'm going to select the material, and I say, and I'll X out. Now, when you input that, or when you add that materials to the resource, look at the budgeted units. It's going to calculate it based on whatever duration you have, as well as the budgeted unit per time. But we're not really concerned about that. All we're going to do now is adjust the budgeted units. Let's say for this site preparation, we only need 1 unit of the material as indicated, or for an example. So I will type 1 in the budgeted unit and press enter. As I add 1 to the budgeted unit and press enter, you will notice that the budgeted material cost is now saying 5,000, which of course is the amount that we said each material will cost. Now, if it turns out that we need more than 1 in terms of quantity for this particular activity, so I will come here in the budgeted unit and put desired units of material that we need. If I type into, then the budgeted material cost, we say 10,000. If I type in 3, it's going to say 15,000. So that is how you add material to your schedule. So bear in mind, I'm using material as a generic example. So if your material is actually cement, for example, from the resource sheet, all you need to do is add it as cement. And if it's sand, you add it as sand, and so on and so forth. Now, back to our summary tab from the details, you will now see that we now have material cost added to the schedule, and the addition of the labor costs, non-labor costs, material costs, and the expense, which is 0 at this moment, is giving you the total cost of $208,760. Now, to complete this exercise of total cost, let's now give an example of how you had the expense cost. The expense cost can be added from your detailed part of your schedule and under the expenses tab. Go to the expenses tab and you're going to have a blank detail part of your schedule. So what you need to do at this point is to click on the add button, and when you do that, it automatically add an expense row at the detail part for you. This is where you're now going to fill in all the required information. So at the expense item column, we're going to add our expense name. Let's say we're going to say site preparation expense. Then under the category, when you click on the expense category, it's going to give you several options to choose from. In the course of this training, let's just use order. You add order to it, and that takes care of the expense category. The next column is the one that says accrual type. By default, it's going to be giving it to you as uniform over activity. But if you need to change it, all you simply need to do is click on the drop-down arrow and you have all the options. You can choose to do it at the end or at the start. It's up to you, or whatever your organization decides to do. Then in the budgeted unit, simply what it means. If it is just one expense, you type 1 there. If it is 2, you type 2. But for the course of this training, I'm going to make it just only 1. And then in the price per unit, it simply means you type the price for which the expenses is. So let's assume in this case the expenses in this case is $7,500. That's how you input that in. And like you notice, it's going to populate other things here for you, like budgeted costs and the remaining costs, which you don't have to do anything on that, because our definition also said that budgeted costs is equal to the actual cost plus remaining costs. Like you can see, the budgeted cost populates itself automatically. Actual cost remains 0 and the remaining cost remains 7,005, which is a confirmation that our budgeted cost equals to actual cost plus remaining costs. Now, you go to the next column, which is vendor. This is where you're going to input in the name of the supplier or whoever company you are buying it from. In this example, I'm just going to type ABC LLC. And by the time I press enter, that completes the process of how to add your budgeted expense costs. Now, like you notice, the $7,500 that we entered here has now populated on the table. That now brings our total budgeted cost to be $216,260. And if I go back to my summary page or my summary tab of the details, that's exactly what I'm going to have. So this completes the demonstration of the costs and also a confirmation that the addition of the labor cost, non-labor cost, material costs, and expenses gives you your total cost. I hope this video has been very helpful. If so, I'll see you in the next class. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for being part of this teaching. We hope this video has been very helpful to you. Just a reminder that this is one of the videos in this series and all the videos are available on this YouTube channel. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section. If you find this video helpful and you're yet to subscribe to our channel, kindly do so by clicking on the subscription button to afford yourself easy access to more videos that are constantly being loaded for the purpose of enhancing your careers. Are you interested in taking the full course for this training? Please visit our website at www.greenlandfoundations.com. You can reach us via email info@greenlandfoundations.com or glandfoundations@gmail.com, as well as communicate with us via phone, text messages, or WhatsApp at area code 281-772-0211. We have live online and remote classes for the following: Primavera P6, Microsoft Project, Microsoft Office Tools, Project Management Professionals, Basic Computer Training, and many more.